Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program with myself, Martin Blackham. I'm here with my wife, Nathalie Blackham, and with a program that looks at Israel with the news. We also look behind the scenes and we look at the biblical consequences of everything that's going on, in particular with the last days. So we are, as we come to you today, still in the midst of the intense Iran war, which has taken over. It was previously the Gaza war, now it's the Iran war,
which is called the Roaring Lion.
Operation Roaring Lion. And very sadly, a couple in their 70s was killed by an Iranian missile in Ramat Gan, which is in the Tel Aviv area, as a result of a deadly missile barrage. These missile barrages are coming quite regularly. The barrage included missiles with submunition, or what they call cluster warheads. The two victims were found in their apartment on the 4th floor of a building in the city. Magen David Adom, Israel's national ambulance service, said teams provided them with first aid and resuscitation efforts, but sadly they were ineffective. MDA, that's Magen David Adom, MDA, paramedic Imbar Green, who arrived at the scene in Ramat Gan, said, "We saw smoke rising from a building with extensive damage, shattered glass. Among the debris, we found two unconscious victims without a pulse and not breathing, with severe injuries. We conducted medical assessments, but they showed no signs of life and were sadly forced to pronounce them dead at the scene. 4 other people were injured from the missile strike at the impact site in Beni Brak. An MDA team also treated and evacuated a young man around 25 years old to Ikilov Hospital with shrapnel wounds." Israel Railways reported that due to the impact near the Tel Aviv Salvador Center train station, damage was caused to some of the station's platforms. Train services had to be temporarily halted. By the way, we should mention that services are pretty regular, I think, at the moment, in both trains and the light railway in Jerusalem, and in also the bus service in Israel. As regards to the airport, I'm not sure where
20% right now.
It is very quiet, as you can imagine. There's not much people coming and going, and they are limiting the amount of people who can go on outboard flights. There are also flights coming in, rescue flights are coming in, so it is very limited. And sorry for you, for those of you who are looking forward to coming to visit Israel. It is very tricky at the moment, and do contact your travel agent or whoever's arranging tours to find out what the position is. I'm not too sure if it's going to change by the summer, Nathalie. Now, one of the things that happens is that there is a rush for safety. A lot of people have to go to a safe room, a mamad, a public bomb shelter, or an underground car park, or somewhere safe, and falls onto the way on the way to shelters have outweighed other injuries. Surprisingly enough, Israelis killed and injured trying to get to bomb shelters. This was not as a result of a missile strike, but just the physical exertion to go to the bomb shelter. Israeli citizens have also reported a surge in ankle injuries due to the rush. And JNS reported
when you jump suddenly, when you go on your feet suddenly, sometimes you can really damage your ankles.
So this is something that's happening here. JNS reported that the number of injuries from tripping, falls, stumbling downstairs and other accidents on the way to shelters far surpass any injuries or deaths from the missiles themselves. Every day people arrive at Israel's Yad Sarah medical equipment centers. They are voluntary Yad Sarah. They provide medical equipment to Israeli citizens, and they are being overrun by citizens who need equipment because of their injuries going to the bomb shelter. On March 16th, an Israeli man in his 50s was seriously injured in Kiryat Gat after getting off a bus during sirens. This is another hazard that you get off the bus and he was hit by a car. On March 9th, Ramban Hospital announced the death of a 22-year-old motorcyclist who was injured in a car accident after losing control of his motorcycle during an alarm as cars braked and stopped in front of him. He was taken for emergency surgery, but unfortunately lost his life. On March 12th, a 17-year-old Israeli teenager, Geya Oren, was run over and killed sadly by a driver while she was going across the street to seek shelter ahead of an Iranian missile attack. So one of the dangers is, of course, not just the missiles themselves, but the activity that's happening at that time.
And the panic that people are in with.
Yeah, so she was crossing the street with a friend following an early warning siren, indicating a possible Iranian missile attack on the city when she was hit by a car at around 9:40 p.m. in the evening. In the end, the missile sirens didn't go off, Nathalie. There was no siren, but she was sadly killed crossing the road to go to the bomb shelter. And another thing that's been happening is accidents on the roads during the missile alarms. People have been having accidents, trucks have been crashing into vehicles. So it's another danger that we face here in Israel in the middle of everything. Now, one of the things that's interesting is breathing exercises during all this stress. Nathalie,
very important.
Yeah,
very important.
Very important to breathe.
I spoke already about it a few times.
Yeah.
Even in daily life, when people are stressed, it's very important to do breathing.
Breathing exercises is very important, and it. The news, Jerusalem Post was featuring a story on how sirens and prolonged stress affect breathing. And one of the things that's been happening as we come to you today is that many people have had multiple alarms, very often at night or during the day, but it is very stressful, especially if you're near to where the alarm is going off, because they're very loud and everything's in the world seems to stop for a moment while you work out what on earth you should do. Nearly 1 million Israelis, by the way, live with chronic lung disease such as asthma and COPD. And for them, the current security reality, which has already lasted a few weeks now, may worsen their condition. And I should also point out that other people who are suffering, particularly with all the alarms going off, are disabled people, either disabled physically, having a wheelchair, or being blind, or those who are disabled are particularly finding it very difficult at the moment with the alarm situation, the sirens.
Sure, and because it's long term, some people, when you are handicapped, when you are in a wheelchair, when you're in a hospital, because I had a friend in a hospital, the nurses goes down in the safe room, and the patients stay up,
on the ward,
because they can't bring everybody. I mean, obviously it was a terminal illness, it was a special department, but I was very surprised to see that. But when it's long term, you start to react differently, and when you are old, sometimes you take the risk of staying at home and you don't have a safe room, and you just wait. It's like these two people who were 70. They didn't really say, but maybe it was impossible for them to go down.
Right.
And it's too fast, and they can't. And they know also that sometimes it's less dangerous to stay at home than to run, trip over. And if you remember the first day or second day of the war, there was a man who was 102. When he ran to the shelter, he had heart problem, and he just died. 102. So it's sad to die this way, running to a shelter. Anyway, everybody has to make the decision.
Yeah. Now, a lot of effect has been felt also by the children of Israel. All the schools have had a lot of them have been closed. I think some of them are reopening, but not so many. And of course, it's affected the children,
and
many
the families.
and the families, and many of the children have had to use Zoom again, which they were doing during the intense part of the Gaza war and also during COVID. So many of the children of Israel are having yet again Zoom lessons, which are not the best. And it's obviously, the war is obviously affecting them, not just with the Zoom lessons, but also with the stress.
And when you see that, I mean, we see it with our grandchildren. We have 5 here in Israel. And it's like, I was thinking about my childhood. And then they have like a childhood of running into the shelters, not really have sometimes holidays because of all the things that's happening and going on. School is so important, socializing, be with your friends, and suddenly you are on Zoom again. It's a lot of things for the children, and there is asthma, and we have some other friends also who have the boy who has autism. So again, it's like, all the children with special needs is even worse for them. And so the family is affected. It's a lot of things.
Yeah, and
a lot of pressure.
Right, and one of the other issues that's happening is sleepless nights, that people are having as I mentioned, the siren, the alarm going off, the missile warnings going off, and it's having an effect on people in Israel's sleep. The ongoing security tension and the nighttime sirens are disrupting the sleep cycles of millions of Israelis, including anxiety, which is causing anxiety and health risks. The sleep disturbances during the war, the security situation has imposed on the residents of Israel over the past days and weeks now, has created a national sleep crisis as millions of Israelis find themselves jumping out of bed at the sound of the sirens in the small hours of the night or of the early morning. In fact, as we come to you today, we did in fact have booms and the sound of explosions during the night.
3:30.
Yeah. So these things are at best they're very upsetting, and at worst they, can cause serious health problems and disturbing people's sleep cycles. And this has a knock-on effect because obviously if people are tired, then with the driving, with the other stresses of normal life, having to run a household with the children, with work, it changes the routine of daily life. And it's relentless, the sirens, really, which often, as I mentioned, arrive in the middle of the night and and the whole family has to go to the bomb shelter, protected space. And it's an increase in adrenaline levels.
And that's it. It's like you have a rush of adrenaline inside of you.
Right.
So when usually it's about around 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour. So you try to go back to sleep, but you had this adrenaline, you had this rush, and you can't go back to sleep straight away.
Right.
And sometimes you say, oh, is there going to have another alert? What is the point to go to sleep? Because sometimes it's even more difficult to, when you go back to sleep properly and suddenly you have an alert, is like very disturbing. And also physically, your body is repairing itself. The immune system is doing a lot of, is like strengthened during the night. So there is a lot, the enzyme, there is, if day and night have been created because we need it. Okay, so now when we're disturbed during the night, is all of us, is our, and all the hormones and everything is disturbed. So it's a big thing for everybody.
Yeah, and very shallow sleep does not allow the body to perform the essential repairs and renewal processes, as Nathalie was saying, that occur during deep sleep. This is a critical health issue for Israelis at the moment. If they're having disturbed sleep, then it does have a knock-on for their health. And of course it means that hospitals which are already on emergency standby, many hospitals have moved their facilities to underground facilities because of the war, and they have this extra pressure of people who are not well because of the stress of the war. So that's the situation that we're in. Natalie, now you have some. Natalie brings us teaching from Hebrew, the Hebrew language, Hebraic understanding of the Bible. And what have you got today for us, Natalie?
Yeah, it's always so interesting and so special to bring you something with the Hebraic roots. We've started to learn that a long time ago. You know, I was thinking, it's like 1997, God was starting to wake us up and saying there is something about the Hebrew language, which would be almost 20, 30 years. Wow. It's just amazing. Anyway, so we've learned a lot of things, and today we're speaking about Zayin, and Zayin is the seventh letter. Since now is the seventh program. Every time I do a letter, and so we're going through the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, and it's 22 letters, so we have a few more, and this is the one, Zayin, okay, number 7, because they all have numbers. And this one is represent like weapon, and you represent also the bride. So it's interesting because in the when you speak about milchama, which is war, okay, milchama, lechem, bread, is in the middle of it. And sometimes you need to work very hard to get the bread of the daily bread. And it's because of that we are praying the Abba Father, the prayer, our Father's prayer. I have trouble. The Father's prayer, because he's saying, pray for asking me for daily bread. Because it's him who is providing for us. Obviously, we need to do something, but it's him who is our provider, the provider. Okay, so it's very important to see that. Now, it's very interesting because, again, you know, when we look, there is day, there is night, is things that God has created. And he created also 6 dimensions: north, south, east, west, up and down. But there is a focal point also. And the focal point is this letter Zayin. And the focal point is, you know, you guess what it is Shabbat. Mm-hmm. And because Shabbat is very special, and when you speak about the other days, is Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni. So it's the first day, the second day. They still say it like that in Israel. And so Yom Rishon means the first day after Shabbat. Tuesday is Yom Sheni. No, sorry, Monday. Monday is Yom Sheni, the second day after Shabbat. So all the days are connected to Shabbat, because Shabbat is the focal point. When you think about, like, the world has been done, is right now we are in the 6th millennium. So we're in the last day of the week. And then we will have the millennium, which will be Shabbat. And Shabbat is to rest. Shabbat is also to have the bread, to have the wine. Shabbat also, we sing a song, Shabbat Malcha, which is the queen of the Shabbat, which is the bride. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's all connected together. So when we learn, we can see, like, as Christian, we are totally connected to the Jewish people, to the Torah, to the blueprint that God has given us. It's not something extra, it's not something new, it's something that we are rediscovering, and that God is really giving us a heart to learn about all of that, because we are going to be one day. So it's so important that we understand all these things and the richness. And not only that, in the middle of the war, middle of what's happening around the world, is like you can feel you need to keep this hope. And And I'm going to speak also to my grandchildren, because you see, it's like, well, it's going to be 1 week, it's going to be 2 weeks. Now we're in the 3rd week of the war. And for the children, it's like, for how long is it going to be? So we need to bring hope again. I say, but we are in this difficult time now, but we'll have some good time again. So we need to look forwards for the good time that we'll have. Shabbat is going to come. The millennium is going to come. Every Shabbat that we have is like we are one Shabbat closer to the millennium, okay, to the final redemption, where they will have no more tears, no more suffering, no more war. And it's so important. Now, one thing which is also very interesting, yesterday I received a very special message from Yehuda Glick, which is a very good friend for many, many years. And we've been going on the Temple Mount with him, and sometimes also without him, but he's somebody who's really tried to stimulate the people and understand the importance of the Temple Mount. And yesterday there was a missile who fell in the old city, very close to the Temple Mount. We don't know what will happen one day with the Alaska, the dome of the rock. Today I was reading in Ezekiel about the 3rd temple, and there is a man who was speaking to Ezekiel and said to Ezekiel, you have to look at this vision, you have to hear what I'm saying to you, because you need to speak to your people that this will happen. So it's like reading it again today and being in the middle of the war is like the word of God is strong. The word of God is emet, is truth, and it will happen. And if God take the time to tell us things in the Bible, it means that it is so important. So yesterday, just before Shabbat, we received a message from Yehuda Glick, and he said, this is happening, and please, and this is what I want to bring also to you today, please pray with us. Pray especially for the children. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem, even more than before. I was saying to some friends, when you eat, just take the time. When you pray, say, thank you, God, for my bread, and we pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And you remember how we did it? And Yehuda was saying the same. He said, when you pray, you turn your body towards Jerusalem. So today, if I was praying right now, it would be, I will look over there, and it will be where I have to pray towards Jerusalem, towards Israel, if you are far from Israel. But we need to pray because He, the Prince of Peace, will bring the real peace. And we all need it. We all need it in us, in our lives. And I was reading also, the temple is also, we are a little temple. And God was saying, my presence will be there. So we carry His presence, and we need to, especially during these days, is like being so conscious that God is with us, that He's always around us, and He is working with us. And we need to be so conscious all the time, that we don't need to be fearful. We know that His kingdom will come, and sooner than maybe we think.
And, it's like there's war around the world, really, because if Israel is at war, then everybody is. It's the center of the world. Right. And, it's the place God looks at. And therefore, if there's a war here, then it's everywhere. It's in different ways, but it's everywhere. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to be with you. Don't forget to visit the website, which is www.israelfirst.org. A lot of information there. You can sign up for Nathalie's newsletter, which is done every week. We do a weekly newsletter, and there's a lot of stories in there. And you do some teaching in there as well, Nathalie, for our friends at home. There's no charge for that. You can get that. You can also get the daily news. I do a daily news story, which you can go to the Israel Media button. You can watch this program as well at a time that's convenient to you. You can go to the media page, and we put the program on there, as well as the schedules of all the stations for the what time the program will be on. Now, thank you so much to all our friends and partners. You make such a difference. You're the ones who enable us to be here in Israel, enable us to bring the program to you around the world. And thank you for your help. If you are not supporting us financially, please consider it, because it does make a massive difference. And you can go to the donate page, and all the information is there. So thank you again, friends and partners, that you're the ones who are making this program be available to people across the world. And we look forward to seeing you again, Nathalie, don't we?
Yes.
So shalom, shalom from Israel. And don't forget, we're the program that looks at the land, the language, and the people.